All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Sean, your physical therapy application coach. So excited to be able to have Miss Leanne here with us today. Leanne, how are you doing this Saturday afternoon?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. It's great.
It's a great Saturday morning.
Yes, it is. And Leanne, let's before we dive in and kind of give everyone your intro, you got this amazing story to tell, and a unique perspective and journey that I think a lot of our viewers are really going to benefit from. But before that, just tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, your family, what you're currently up to, and then we'll get into more of the PT specific stuff.
Right. I'm Leanne. I'm originally from Honolulu, Hawaii. I've been living here in Marysville, Washington for about 20 years. Um, Basically working life, working in home health, physical therapy. I have a husband and a daughter, teenage daughter. That's pretty much my home life at the moment. Getting prepped for PT school.
That's
So that's
awesome.
the next final journey part coming to fruition.
Awesome. So for most of our viewers who'll be watching this, most of them will be pre-PT. Some of them may be
Mhm.
in a similar situation to you, but you say you already work in home health. So that leads us into tell us about kind of your career journey and why it's led you to the point that you're at currently.
Right. I've been a physical therapist assistant for about nearly 25 years, and I've seen changes in the profession. I've seen the writing on the wall actually for myself the last 10 years, noticing that there's more a transition for more PT positions. I've worked a lot in skilled nursing for most of my career. And I think when COVID hit, just before the COVID pandemic, things started shifting. People started losing their jobs left and right. Fortunately for myself, um, I decided that skilled nursing was just, I don't know, I guess I was just tired of it. I wanted to try something different. Home health was the only really area of physical therapy that I had not worked in. I worked in every single setting besides that. And I, jumped in head first. And it was just like, it was something different. It was really strange because when you're in skilled nursing, you're preparing people to get home. Now, when you're working in the home, it's like, how do we keep them home and not in
Right.
the hospital?
Right.
So it was like that flip side. However, it's like with the years of, acute care experience, and, a lot of it's skilled nursing is acute care, really, truly. And it's actually allowed me to really push people a little bit harder in their home environment, being successful in keeping them home. Um, and it's interesting because it's like, with the years of experience that I have, and I feel like that, you don't learn it as a new grad. It's trial and error for a lot of stuff. Great. We learn the basic stuff in school, the textbook stuff. And let me just tell people, that's just your bare bones. You will figure it out, but you have to really, the XYZ. You don't have your clipboard there to just tell you what to walk through. You kind of identify A, B, C, D, and then you sometimes go to Z. But yeah, it's been a good career, and I want to continue in it.
Awesome. Awesome. I think a couple things I really like. Um, it's just funny when you look at like the different work environments that you're in, how like home health, our job is to keep them out of the hospital. Obviously, for everyone else, it's to get them out of the hospital or
Yeah.
get them back home. But
Yep.
then there's so much of like, what can we do to prevent people from going to acute care or skilled nursing at all? Right. So I think
Yep.
that's great that you have that perspective. And what a tremendous asset to the profession as a future doctor of physical therapy that you've worked in all these different settings, you have all of this perspective, and you have a full understanding of what the full scope and breadth of physical therapy looks like from PTA standpoint, which is huge because you're arguably in the trenches each and every one of those environments. So I think that's really cool. And I also think you bring up an interesting point. Like those who desire to continue to be PTAs, nothing wrong with that. But I
Mm-mm.
think, like you said, like there is something to be said for there's writing on the wall regarding PTAs, in essence,
Yeah.
and in terms of wanting to like be an autonomous provider and take your own fate into your own hands. Going the physical therapy route is available for PTAs as well, right? So let's talk about that. What besides like the writing on the wall and some of these other things, when did you finally push the button to say, okay, I'm going to go from being a PTA of 25 years to
Yeah.
pursuing a DPT degree?
Well, I think for me, it's like when I graduated from PTA school, the dream was actually to become a PT. I've had one of my kinesiology professors way back when, he was like, "Oh my God, you make a fantastic PT." But I tried to pursue it, but life gets in the way. It's like, things happen, you have to like step up, get a job and all this other stuff. Um, but I think, then I got married and it was just having a kid and it was just like all this whirlwind stuff. And, one day I was sitting home and watching the Seattle Seahawks were playing. And I'm going to give credit to Russell Wilson, the quarterback, because he kept promoting this thing. Why not us? Why not us? And then so I sat there and I listened to everybody else telling me the reasons why I shouldn't be a PT. But that burning in my heart was still like, something was missing. Like I needed to do, it was for me, not for anybody else. So my husband looked at me, he goes, "Why not you?" And I allowed my fear of, and this is a lot of overcoming fears of failure for me. I am such a perfectionist and I can admit it. And it's like the fear of failing because I did the first time physics, chemistry was so hard for me. But crazy part about being an older student, and I'm 51 now, but it's just like where the learning process was so different. There's like so much more there are tools out there like YouTube and so forth and tutoring and yada yada, whatever it may be, that really helped me through and spent a lot of time and money to do it. But I got the grades, it got me into schools, and it was just like I knew what I was coming up against. But as an older student in the class, I feel like I pushed myself 10 times as hard because I'm not as familiar with a lot of the stuff for the like the younger generation. But if you want something bad enough, you're going to push to do whatever it takes to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, courtesy of Russell Wilson, even though he's not
Right.
with the Seahawks anymore. Darn
I know that's a sore
But
subject, but yeah.
I think it's, you had all these kind of innate desires. And then on
Mhm.
top of that, you needed a little extra oomph to kind of start getting the ball rolling. And then how cool to see that, like, as a student, you didn't just stick with being a student like you were when you were in PTA school. You adapted and you became a student of this day and age, right? And seeing
Right.
all the tools and the resources. And I think that's so true. Like, we have this traditional method of what we think learning looks like, but there are so many
Mhm.
resources available to people that if you are someone who's similar to Leanne, that maybe you're considering either going back to school or changing careers completely and then becoming a physical therapist, there's so many different resources out there to help you be successful. Don't let that fear be what holds you back.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was like as a younger student, I didn't do very well. So I'm just telling people that I had terrible GPA when I first started out because I had no clue what I wanted to do when I went to college the first time out. After I got in the profession and so forth, and it's like, what you want to do. And like I said, you push yourself more. Like for myself, and Zoom was a online schooling when COVID happened. It was a little bit of a challenge. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not high tech savvy. So thank God for teenagers who do know how to help their parents figure it out. My daughter's awesome. Like, things I had to do video. She do all the stuff for me, but it's like, it's a learning curve, everything in life. And in this profession, we have to really, you're looking at the bigger picture because now we've got telehealth, we've got, you know, like how to be able to communicate effectively, through Zoom or something else, or I mean, so many aspects that's now available. Even like for myself in home health, right? It's like if I can't communicate with them, I've got translator on my phone. I mean, effectively, you try to communicate the best you can, to be effective. So
For sure. Yeah, no, there are so many tools, regardless of whether it's trying to get into the profession, in the profession.
yeah,
Um, there's a lot fewer barriers than there used to be in terms of
yeah,
taking advantage of opportunities, for sure.
yeah.
Okay, so you did all the stuff, you jumped through all the hoops. It's time to start applying to PT school. Talk about that experience.
Well, yeah, I had 3 schools in mind, actually 4 schools in mind that I was going to apply to. Then when it came down to the application part, I screwed it up. And thank God, I for some reason I went through the internet and I found I Googled something and then your information popped up. And I was like, oh, what is this? I said, oh my gosh, this is what I need. Because it's like I had no clue what I was going to do. It's like I had no clue about how to apply for my essays, how to finish my PT CAS application, which I totally screwed up on some stuff, but thank goodness that people helped me fix it. Um, getting all the submissions in. So I was looking at Hanover College, University of Utah. I had a few other schools that I did not require the GRE because I was like, what I mean? It's like I didn't really want to go down that route. And it would be longer. And I wanted something that would still allow me to work, which they tell you don't do it, but I'm already in the field and my job is pretty flexible with home health. That I can actually meet, I mean, I can still make money while I'm going to school. And it's like,
Mhm.
and also I look at it, it's also applying the application part of the material into my job, right? Because you're learning all this stuff, but you're still doing it in the field. So you can practice hands-on things as you're going through the process. So I decided when I went through the process of everything else, I did my interviews, which thank goodness Sean and Kyle helped me a lot through that, in preparation for my I call it my speed dating interview, because it was like you got 2 minutes to answer these questions on the fly. And I felt prepared. And luckily for me, the 5 questions that I got, it was on my list of the things that we practiced.
That's
And I contacted, after it was all over, I contacted the ed advisor for Hanover College and thanked her for her, help and her time. And it was pretty cool that she mentioned it was one of the best interviews that, she had seen in a long time for a video. And I attribute, to you guys helping me a lot, and it's all in the preparation, right? If you're not prepared, it's like, how are you supposed to answer things? And you had to keep talking for 2 minutes.
yeah,
So yeah, I didn't stutter, just plowed through.
that's awesome. Yeah, Leanne, I really I think your story is great because you had a specific niche of programs. You didn't want the GRE, you wanted a hybrid program that would allow you to still
Hmm.
work. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But because you knew exactly what you were looking for, you could be a lot more specific and devote your time and energy and resources more effectively instead of just like, well, I'm just going to apply to a bunch of different programs and see
Right.
what happens. Right. Um, and I think that's true. We talk about harp on that all the time with the people that we coach is you need to know specifically what you're going after. The more specific you can be, the better it's going to be. And then as far as your interviews go, like you were talking about, I remember when we
Hmm.
first started and it was like, whoo, we're just going all over the place, right? And you have
Yeah.
all this passion and this motivation and this energy that is just infectious, but channeling that into like a very condensable, digestible package. Um,
Right.
and you, to your credit, you worked your butt off because we give people advice all the time, but most people have a hard time actually implementing it. But you took it to heart and you went to work and it was a smashing success, which is fantastic. So let's give people a little bit of a spoiler. Where are you going to PT school?
I'm decided to I'm going to go to Hanover College, which is in Hanover, Indiana.
Awesome. Awesome. And let's talk about this. Besides the benefit of being able to work while in PT school, what made you ultimately choose to do a hybrid program and maybe Hanover more specifically?
Well, it's, how do I explain it? It's like that when I had a conversation with the advisor there, I don't know, there was just something, and even the conversation, like generally people care. They, it's just that feeling I had. My other school, I did the Zoom and everything else, but I didn't have that fuzzy feeling. And it was just like, I didn't want to feel like another number, because it's like, we're through life. We should feel like, and even like how, to me, I feel like it's a reflection of ourselves, because I feel like each person I connect with as a patient, a patient clinician, or even just a person in personal life, it's all about the connection with people, because we've lost, I feel like, with COVID, we've kind of lost that.
Yeah.
It's so that online, everything's online, but in person, it's like, it's that first impression that we have. And I had that, I'm not saying I have to be warm and fuzzy, but I've had that feeling like, okay, people actually, this is where I need to be. This is people who care. They're going to help me get me through. And it was just not just her, it was interactions even with the financial aid person. And it's like everybody that I had in contact with. It was just that, okay, you know what I mean? I just had this feeling. And of course, I did more research and I found out some of the staff that's there, they were at other colleges that I was going to apply to like 20 years ago.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, and then yeah, and then a connection I met with I have a cohort that I'm going to be traveling with here in Washington, and she was telling me some of the other instructors were people that she did continuing education classes with. So I was like, I'm sold. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. So you asked a lot of questions, you did your research,
Yeah,
and you actually talked to real people in the program, and that ultimately helps you
yeah,
to, that's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah.
Um, so Leanne, let's talk a little bit about using this. You've mentioned this a little bit, right? How do you feel like using the services of physical therapy application coach made a difference in your application?
Oh my gosh, a huge difference. I mean, when we talked about my essays, I'm like, I was all over the place with my essays. I made no clue which way to go. Because I mean, how do you condense 25 years into like what, 500 words or whatever the maximum words were? It's like,
Mhm.
how do you describe all that? And I didn't realize like how you have to market yourself. I'm thinking, well, I think I'm generic, but with your, creativity and just helping me kind of polish it up, and I was like, wow, that made me feel like, holy cow, I'm actually a rock star because I don't see myself as that. You just like you're out there, you're doing your job, but it's more than just the job. And it should, I mean, for myself, I'm speaking for myself as Jen as a clinician. I don't want to change professions. I love what I do. I mean, every day I wake up, yeah, there's some other things like, scheduling or whatever, but I love meeting people, and seeing them progress. Holy cow. I mean, just from, and I just got back from a trip and I just like, I haven't seen people in a week and I'm like, what have you been doing? You're doing so much better than when I left, you know? So it's that reward in that perspective that you've done a good job.
For sure. Yeah, I think looking back, right, one of the things I love that you said is how do you condense 25 years into 4,500 characters? You know what I mean?
Ugh,
And
right.
that's something that we specialize in and that we really kind of harness is like, what is your unique selling point that you are
Hmm.
bringing to the table? And sometimes, I think to your credit, you came around to the idea that all of that work experience is nothing but a net positive, right? Like
Right.
that is something that nobody else is probably going to have in your cohort, maybe a few of them. Um,
Right.
but that is a unique selling point, and that's something that gives you an edge and a maturity that is going to be absolutely crucial in your cohort. And so turning that into something that you maybe would have thought of as like a downside into a positive.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
and I think once with essays, you were like, okay, like I can see that. But it really kind of hit home with interviews of like, you are a rock star. These are cool and awesome things about Leanne that other people need to know about because
Hmm.
if you're not going to speak up for yourself, who is? Right.
Right.
Um, and I think you really got that. And that's why you were able to shine with your essays, which helped you get to your interviews. And then you were able, like they said, this is one of the best interviews they've had in a long time. Right. So credit to you for being willing to come with us and to be teachable. So that way you would trust the process and see the end result. And it's so exciting to see, like, when I see people like you who are so energized and enthusiastic about the profession, even after working in it in 25 years, like a lot of people burn
Hmm.
out and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And they move on to something else. But you're still so passionate after all this time. It's motivated me. And it also makes me even more excited that as you gain more knowledge and have a bigger skill set, that there's
Hmm.
people like you going into the profession to go and to boost it up and to strengthen it. So that's super motivating for me as a coach. And that's what drives me and keeps me engaged with you guys is watching you. If I empower other people who can go empower other people, then
Right.
that makes me feel like $1,000,000. So thank you for coming along with the ride. Thank you for being willing to implement the stuff that we gave you. And thank you for just being who you are, because that's the selling point is we just have to, you don't have to change who you are. We just have to change your perception of who you are, and make it
Correct.
You're a rock star. You're awesome, and you deserve to get into PT school.
Well, I mean, without your guys' help, honestly, I'd still be driving in circles. But and that's the thing. It's like, I think when meeting with you guys, not just motivates you guys, but it's just like it motivated me to see beyond. Because I think a lot of the schools, it's not just it's not just grades, it's not just your GPA. I mean your GPA or your GRE or whatever it may be. I think it's just like, what, like you said, what are you going to provide for this program? What are you going to provide for your future patients? It's like, who are you? What do you want to do? And I think that's made me question a lot of stuff of what I want to do, and maybe narrow it down a little bit more, because I'm not just a generalist anymore. I mean, it's not just general this or general that. It's like, okay, what I really want to do, what am I passionate about? And I noticed that change even in my treatments now. I mean, not like I didn't do it before, but it's planted a seed in my head of how do I make it better?
That's great. That's great. And everybody watch out. Here comes Leanne. She's coming. Leanne, what parting advice would you give to someone who maybe is in your shoes? Maybe they're a PTA looking to make a jump. Maybe they're a non-traditional student, or they're changing from one career to the next. What advice would you give to those people?
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Just, I'm not saying dive in, but do your research. The biggest thing for me was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for this? Kind of giving it up, said a prayer. It's like, okay, Lord, because from me and as a Christian perspective, I said, okay, Lord, when I prayed about this a long time ago, whatever doors will be open, whatever's closed will be closed. And he's navigated my way through the whole process, and meeting people like you guys, and along my journey, that have helped me to get to this point. I don't do it by myself. And it's like, whether, it's not saying you don't have to be religious or anything, but just trusting the system, asking questions. Because if, there's no such thing as a dumb question. It's like, it's a question. When it's dumb is when we don't ask it. Then it's like, oh my gosh, you might have missed an opportunity, and don't miss opportunities. I mean, because like I said, people starting off in PTs, maybe like what, in their 20s. I'm 51, and I'm still grinding. I'm still pushing towards where I want to go. I'm not done yet. I'm about to retire when I'm 100. That's about it. Because there's so many avenues in this field, and it keeps growing. Every day there's something new, something different, and it may be online. It may be, maybe you're a manual therapist. Maybe you have passion for outpatient. Whatever it may be, don't let it stop you, no matter what your age is. Money will come and go. This profession, and it's like a revolving door. Like when earlier when we had your discussion about COVID, with that other meeting we had, just push through. It's like I was, in that barrel as well. Thought I was going to lose my job, and thank God I didn't. My people stepped up. They're like, when employees know the value of their worker, they will step up for you, and they will find a different route to make it happen. Just trust the system. If it does, one door closes, it wasn't meant to be, another one will open up, especially with this profession.
Thank you, Leanne. That's beautiful. And if we can surmise that, don't be afraid, ask questions, and keep going. Don't quit.
Yep.
Right? Like, just take advantage of the opportunities that come to you. And once you set your mind to something, I'm religious as well, Christian background. If whatever your belief system is, whether it's luck or God or the universe, once you set your mind to something, there is a force that will pull you towards that goal if you are listening and if you're taking advantage of opportunities and you're working your hardest. And that's something I see time and time again with applicants of all different backgrounds or faith beliefs or no faith belief. Maybe they don't even recognize it, but along you see that thread of God all along throughout the background, and it's cool to see. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective, your insights, your attitude, your passion. I know that people will be excited and energized after watching this video, just like I was every time after we got off